Welcome to the FNO InsurTech Podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome. Yes, welcome to another edition of a summertime edition of FNO InsurTech. I am Rob Beller coming to you from Sacramento, California, where it's like 127 degrees today. Maybe that's an exaggeration.
It's pretty hot, right?
And him, the other guy who all the girls are waiting to hear, is Lee Boyd.
I don't think that's ever been said. Well, Rob, I'm sitting here in Waco, Texas, and it's 83 degrees.
It's role reversal.
It's role reversal.
That's what's going on in this world.
I will take this weather all day long.
Wait, there's something, but tell us what's going on in Texas today.
Man, we had a hurricane that popped up and rolled right up this morning. Hurricane Beryl, I believe. And it did quite a bit of damage throughout the Houston, Corpus Christi area.
Okay.
And I can actually see the bands right outside Waco. They're not over Waco. They're probably 20 miles over. So you kind of see a dark, ominous looking cloud, but we're not going to get any rain, they said.
The July 8th, that's pretty early.
I'd set a lot of records.
Pretty early for a Caribbean event, right?
Yeah. I don't know all the records it set, but it set a lot of records. Early storms. I don't know what this means for the rest of the year. A lot of people can speculate, of course, but a lot of people are nervous. Let's just put it that way.
So I have to ask you a question. You know, here at FNO InsurTech, we scour the world.
We do.
Is that fair to say? Is that fair to say?
We
scour the world.
Many countries.
We don't care where our guest is located. Mm-hmm. We don't care any of the particulars. We only care about the information that you need to know. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, yes, we have, all over the world. All over the world.
We don't care what color their hair is.
Multiple continents.
We don't care
about
what
hair.
Clothes they're wearing, or even if they're wearing clothes.
We don't, because we don't do video.
We don't. We had a naked child on the show run through one time.
It wasn't on purpose, people. It wasn't on purpose, but that did happen.
No, it wasn't. It was
quite
not
uncomfortable.
Planned.
Quite uncomfortable.
It was a parent who turned his back.
It was during COVID. Everyone was
during
home.
COVID.
Kids were running through the house everywhere.
That's right. Can you name that guest?
No. Can you?
If you give me enough time, I can.
No, we don't have enough time.
Okay. So anyway,
never mind.
Speaking of scouring the world, today we're traveling all the way to Oregon.
Oh,
or
quite
as some people would say, Oregon.
Yeah, they're wrong.
We here in the West call it Oregon.
Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon, where you will find the offices of Alacrity Services and Solutions, which that's not where our corporate office is, but it's where our managed repair office is in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
And inside of that office, frequently, you'll find our guest for today's show.
Who is?
You just did the interview with him. You don't remember?
Well, I didn't know. You never let me say their name.
Folks, let's talk about the tragedy of dementia.
You never let me say their name.
Let's
you
talk
always
about
say their
Lee
name.
Boyd, whose memory at a young age, and you talk about early onset. Wow.
You changed the pattern. We have a pattern. People are used to a pattern within our podcast, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, you
are used to
do
a pattern."
it."
Anyways, as I was saying,
no, I'm saying
our guest. Who's
our guest? Who's our guest? Rob?
No, don't let me steal your thunder, Lee. Go ahead.
We have John Miko, the president of Alacrity MRP. We get the privilege to visit with him. We have known him for a long time, Rob longer than myself. We're actually coworkers in our day jobs, and we get to talk to him today all about the history of Alacrity MRP, what they do, the specialists, the people who are behind the claim, and what separates them. So I'm very excited to have John on today.
Right,
Long time overdue.
As you all know, Lee and I, the hosts, the exalted hosts of F&O InsurTech,
building us up,
also known as our total side hustle. This is not a job. This is just our hobby.
Yeah, it's
but for a living
gig.
For a living, we work for Alacrity Solutions, a premier provider in the property and auto, or I'll just say P&C claims world, service provider to many, 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 many carriers in our country and elsewhere. And in our work, we get to work with John Miko, who runs our MRP world. And our managed repair is extraordinary, and I'm speaking from experience. And it's also kind of something that I think more people should know about. So Lee and I talked about it. We said, shucks. There's a Leeism for you.
Yeah, but how have you ever said shucks?
Shucked. Why don't we have John on the podcast?
Yeah.
And so shucks, here we are.
He's here. He's here today. He's here, and I'm excited to get to talk to him.
So I think we've said enough in preparation for it.
We have rambled today.
Not rambling. There is no rambling in baseball.
You said dementia. That normally doesn't ever fit in the beginning of a podcast, but whatever.
That's the first time I think I've ever said the word dementia in the podcast.
No, I don't think it is, but I digress.
Without further ado, here is our interview with our friend and coworker, John Miko, President of Alacrity MRP and Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer. Hey, everybody. We are here. When I say we're here with a special guest, I'm not kidding. Am I, Lee?
No. Very special.
This guy is a coworker, a friend, I guess kind of a boss. He's kind of a boss guy.
He was one of the very first people to write us whenever our company was acquired by Alacrity to say, welcome to the team.
Which is also, that's typical.
It speaks volumes.
Typical.
Yeah.
Folks, we have John Miko here today. John is the president of Alacrity MRP, Managed Repair Program.
Yeah.
Did I get that right, John?
Yes, that's correct.
He's the Chief Strategy Officer.
Yes, and Innovation.
And Innovation.
Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer. And in his spare time, he's also a golfer.
Well,
hey.
We're not going to talk about that today.
No, let's not talk about that.
Although it may be more interesting.
It's very generous of you to actually say I'm a golfer.
I'll take it.
I'm trying to get on your good side here, John. I see it's going well so far.
Yes.
So far, so good. Check one.
We have the one and only John Miko, Esquire, I'll add, with us today. Our coworker who, and we've known, both Lee and I have known John for years and years and years. And we're super excited to have the opportunity to have him join our show today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Rob. And thanks, Lee. It's great to be here. Really is an honor.
We're excited to get a visit with you, get to dive in and learn more about the MRP section of Alacrity.
I just recently had the privilege of going to Eugene, Oregon, where John lives. That's right. If you've ever wondered who lives in Eugene, Oregon, John Miko does, and his family. Yeah. And they hosted me for a weekend at the U.S. Olympic trials, right?
Yeah, it was a great time. Thanks so much for coming, Rob. And I know you were surprised that there is as much going on in Eugene as there is, right?
Eugene has become one of my favorite stops.
I've never been there.
Yeah, it's got to
be. I mean, it looks like a beautiful place.
It is a beautiful place. You know, I grew up in New Jersey, and New Jersey is still an important place for me. But I've lived in Eugene for over 20 years now.
Oh wow!
And I can't see myself either going back to New Jersey or moving anywhere else. We always think about this. My wife and I always talk about, hey, what would be a good place to live? And there's a lot of beautiful places in this country, a lot of places I like to visit. But in terms of where I like to live, and I'm surprised by this, by the way, it is Eugene. It's a great place.
And it has, in my view, it has these things going for it. It has a remarkably wonderful climate, 12 months, I'll say. And it's very beautiful. It's like somebody dropped a city in the middle of a forest, basically.
Yeah.
And it's also really cool because the University of Oregon is there, and there's tons and tons of stuff to do. So there's this whole college town vibe inside of a forest, in a nice environment.
I have a friend who said it's the biggest city of 250,000 people you'll ever see.
There
right. And in terms of things to do, because of the university, especially, it's the birthplace of Nike.
Yeah.
We have a really good, there's a good restaurant scene. There is a lot to do. I'm not saying it's New York City or it's Waco, Texas, but it's
there's a lot going on. Waco, Texas. I'm looking at the pictures of Eugene, Oregon right now, and Waco's right about there. Beautiful, beautiful forest and hills. Anyway.
No.
Sorry. Eugene, not Waco. We're flat as a pancake.
Eugene wins the contest of the more beautiful city. I'm just saying. I've been to both places. So you say you're from New Jersey. You're a long way from New Jersey. Just give us a minute on your background. I mentioned that you're an attorney. So you're another one of us who started down one path and found yourself in the insurance industry.
Yeah, that's right. I grew up in New Jersey, North Jersey, just outside New York City. You could always, I could see the Empire State Building from my bedroom window. It was off in the distance, but it was there.
It's cool.
Yeah, and had a great upbringing in a really nice town. Kind of looking back at it now, it's kind of what would be described as kind of like a classic, suburban 80s high school experience. My kids always say that, like if we watch an 80s movie and then they learn about me, they're like, this is really what it was like for you, right? I said, yeah, it really was like that.
This is your life.
And went to Rutgers University and was a history major, went to law school in New York City. And first of all, didn't think I was going to go to law school when I was in college, and then ended up going to law school and was a litigator and tried cases in New York and New Jersey. And in law school, I met my future wife, who was from Eugene, Oregon. And she was an insurance adjuster during law school. And when I got out of law school, I worked mostly for insurance companies, doing insurance defense work. And we came out on vacation while we were dating to Eugene, Oregon. And I said, let's move. And so when we got married, we moved to Eugene and have been out here ever since. I practiced law at a law firm for a period of time, about 2 years out here, and had a small business practice. And one of my clients was a small startup company called Alacrity Solutions. And one day when I couldn't handle billing 6-minute increments of my time anymore, and had it, my wife encouraged me to quit my law job, and Alacrity hired me pretty much as one of their first 40 employees to do whatever it was and write contracts for them.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
When was this?
As long as you're here, John.
Yeah, you could write contracts, but are you also willing to answer the phone and learn how to use the LACNet, our system, and everything? And I said, sure. And that was 2004.
2004.
Yep, March of 2004. So this past March was my 20th anniversary at Alacrity.
Wow. That makes you an old timer.
It does in many ways, not just at Alacrity, but overall, I've learned.
So I want to ask you a little bit about let's go back to 2004-ish period of time. Alacrity was in the MRP business, right? But that was not as big of a deal as it is today, right? I mean, talk about where that came from. First, I'm going to ask you, define what managed repair and a managed repair program is.
Sure. Managed repair for us really is a closed system of a network of restoration contractors that are available to perform repairs to insured homes. I mean, It's as simple as that. And really what you need is you just have to make sure that those contractors are credentialed, background checked, and that you know that they are truly the best of the best. And then you have to have a way to get the job from the carrier or from the insured, right, to the contractor, and make sure that that job gets completed in a timely fashion and at a high level of customer service.
And so let's start there. 2004. What is Alacrity Services at that time? Are you a regional player? What are you doing there?
National, really. So we were spun out of in 1999. There's a company called Project Time and Cost, which I believe is still in business in the Atlanta area.
Well, they've been bought.
They've been bought. They're
Grover,
cost engineering.
Grover Davis, maybe Grover. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
PT&C.
okay. PT&C, yeah. And they had started a division called PTC Net Inc., which was cost estimating specific to the restoration industry, and it was built around a software platform, what they called PTC Net, and we now call AlacNet. And because they were doing cost engineering work specifically for the government, they thought, hey, we could kind of use what we've learned and use it in the insurance space. And at the time, there was a estimating component to the software because they had never heard of Xactimate.
Oh, yeah.
And so from 1999, 2000, they get a large carrier as a Allstate at the time as their really first client. And between then and 2004, they end up getting spun off of Project Time and Cost, sold to what was then called venture capitalists, and then sold again to private owners who basically rebrand the company as Alacrity Services.
Oh, okay.
And treat it as not a technology company, but a service company.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And so are you competing in a crowded field of managed repair service offerings, or is it it's a brand new world, right?
It is. There was a system called Prism back in around 2000, and out of that early system grew really the two companies in existence at that time, which was Contractor Connection and us. And it was such a new idea. I remember being on the phone and even in 2004 and talking to people at insurance carriers and being told, well, we're using you guys today, but last week we were using another company, and next week we're going to be using somebody else, and all of this is going away because this is not something that we need. The adjusters can handle managing the contractors.
Mm-hmm. So, but they were wrong. they were clearly wrong. It's interesting, and I'll just say that. So Lee and I, we come from 470. We come from the IA business, and we knew that what MRP was and that it had been out there. And when we were acquired by Alacrity and we came into the group and we started to learn about MRP, I was honestly kind of shocked how complicated and challenging the work that you guys do is, right? It's complicated and hard. And it's not as simple as here's a claim, send a contractor. That is such an oversimplification. It does no justice to the truth.
Yeah, that's true, Rob. And I think that a lot of people do think that, hey, all it takes is I need a way to get claims, and then I can send them to contractors, and I can recruit contractors, and it's really simple. But it is a complicated business. There's a lot that goes into it, and a lot of things that we take for granted today are things that we had to really think about and develop. And I'm not taking credit for that. I mean, there were other companies that I mentioned were involved as well. But we had to work through a lot of those growing pains to figure out kind of where a managed repair network fit in the claims ecosystem.
Yeah.
And we were always very conscious that it has to be, and I know it's a cliche to say a win-win, but it really does have to be additive to the process, to everybody gets something out of this.
So John, keep going down the path. So we know kind of the beginning. Somewhere in the history here, Lowe's comes into play, right? Talk to me a little bit about the history as we move through from Alacrity Services to Lowe's being involved. What's going on there?
Well, so I joined in 2004, and in 2008, of course, we've got a financial crisis, right? And the world changes for everybody. And what we learned, and what I think outside observers learned, is that the claim space didn't change as much, right? I mean, that was a recession-resistant space to be in. And as we climbed out of 2008 and things started to improve, 2010, 2011, all of a sudden we start getting interest from potential acquirers of the business because they saw that how well our business had weathered that storm. And one of those acquirers, which was different than all the rest, was Lowe's. Lowe's calls us up one day and says, we want to talk to you. And I remember Keith Hemmer, our executive vice president, said on the very first call, you guys are Lowe's. What do you need us for? And they said, well, yeah, that's probably true, but it's also true that you guys seem to be pretty good at this, and we'd like to learn more about it. And by 2013, they had acquired us from the previous two owners who had owned the company since 2003. So after about 10 years, the previous two owners left, and we were acquired by Lowe's because one of Lowe's largest customer bases, and aside from individual consumers, is contractors. So they saw us as a good fit in with our contractor base. At the time, we had about 1,500, 2,000 different contractors on the program. And Lowe's thought that it would be good to have us as one of the companies that they owned so that they could help provide benefits to the contractors on our network.
So, and the acquisition by Lowe's actually was kind of fortuitous, right? I mean, it took Alacrity in a different Alacrity Services in a little different direction and gave you guys capabilities and vision that maybe wasn't there before. Is that all fair to say?
It is. One of the fun aspects of it is we had 50 employees at the time, and we were in one of our very first carrier presentations. There were two gentlemen from Lowe's in the room with us, and I told the carrier we had 50 employees. And then when the Lowe's spoke, he said, we have 300,050 employees at Lowe's. Making it clear that we had their full support and backing to handle what needed to be handled. And it really put us in growth mode. So we went from having one carrier client to, I think, having 18 by 2019. We also branched off into other verticals that weren't necessarily insurance related. So coming out of that recession or coming out of the financial crisis, there was a large inventory of foreclosed homes. You may be familiar with the term REO, right? Bank-owned real estate. We got heavily involved into repairing those homes that many had been abandoned, many had been vandalized, and putting them back into shape so they could be sold either to individuals or back to investors. And that became a good business. And it opened our eyes to the fact that there were other things we could do with our networking capability to help grow the business.
Yeah.
But didn't they also invested very heavily in your technology and in technology for your work?
They did. We rebuilt our LACnet system under them, which is our system of record to track jobs through our system. It helped with integrations, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, but we're integrated now through APIs with most of the other large systems providers, product providers in the claims space. We also built out some direct-to-consumer capabilities, or at least experimented with that, and did a fair amount of work in seeing where else we could, how else we could bring more jobs into the system.
And so, John, it seems like that was a good opportunity, right? Being acquired by Lowe's, being exposed to more carriers and improvement in technology and things like that. So keep walking us through. Before we dive into all the things you do day to day, I want to finish out this timeline. Lowe's then decides to spin off, right? Or a sale or something. Talk to me. What happened there?
Yeah. So actually, the biggest learning I think we got from Lowe's is we went from being a small company of 50 employees to being part of a Fortune 40 company, right? And learning how to do business at that level,
Oh,
how to
yeah.
prepare for board meetings, and just all of the financial and work that they do. And it was an education. It was like getting an MBA and then some,
I
right?
would imagine so.
That was fantastic. And things were going along really well. And in 2018, Lowe's had a new CEO. In fact, I just saw today on LinkedIn, it's his 6th-year anniversary. He posted about it. Marvin Ellison came in. He had been at Home Depot. He then went over to J.C. Penney. He then took the job at Lowe's. And he came in with his executive team and a different vision for where Lowe's would go. So Lowe's had been talking about omni-channel, and they had made a number of acquisitions of companies that they thought were helpful to them and would help them do something other than sell hammers from stores. And Marvin came in and saw a different vision there and said, "No, you know what? We're Lowe's. We need to be really, really good at selling hammers out of stores." And so they sold all of the companies that they had acquired, and we were one of those companies. And to his credit, I think Lowe's stock performance has done really well since then. So he was right. And
He
but
did
it
good.
worked out. He did well, but it worked out well for us because we went from being kind of an outlier in that we were a managed repair company owned by a Fortune 40 retail company, to then being acquired by what was then Worley, right, an IA firm, much more of a traditional fit, I think, for us. And
Yeah.
then obviously Worley rebranded as Alacrity Solutions shortly after that.
What were those early days like whenever you got acquired by Worley? And I guess why did Worley want to purchase the business?
It was like any time when there's change and an acquisition, there's always a little bit of trepidation involved in that. But Jim Pearl and John Hall and the other leaders at Worley really did a great job of making us feel welcome at the company, and help and making it clear to us kind of what our role was in it. And the role is we've built an end-to-end claims solution at what is now Alacrity Solutions, right? And managed repair is a major component of that. So everything from
Absolutely.
first notice of loss, intake of the claim, right? You guys know you're there, through the estimating process, the repair process, temporary housing for those that need it who are displaced, auto, all the way through to payment of the claim and closing of the claim. So all of that can be handled in one chain, in one stop, and managed repair, I think, plays a major role in that.
Yeah, I think it's a major player whenever you're talking about end-to-end solutions. Well, I think why don't we dive in? Why don't we dive in a little bit into what you do today? What is managed repair? How do you work? I know there's a lot of people over there. They do a lot of important things. So tell me, how are clients using your service today?
Well, I think that's a great question because it gives me the opportunity to say that our clients may use our service slightly differently depending upon what their needs are. And one of the things that we always talk about internally is that we want to meet the client where they are. And so what works the way, and that was a big learning for us because for so long we had one insurance carrier client, and when you have a hammer, every problem's a nail. And so every time we talk to another client, we say, "Well, here's how we do it." And they say, "We don't do it that way." And you say, "Yeah, but that's how we do it." And it took us a while to learn that we don't have to do it that way. We can do it more or less the way the client wants it done, because we do have that flexibility, both with the technologies that we employ are very flexible, but most importantly, the human beings that work with us, right? And their ability to adapt and to make sure that we're providing the service that the client needs on a personal level, to get to know our both our carrier clients and our contractor partners, to meet them there. So to get back to your question, generally, in a traditional world, or let's say pre-2000, there's a loss at your home. Let's say, you have a water line breaks on your refrigerator and it floods your kitchen, it damages your floor, it damages your walls. You need to have the water removed. Carrier might send an adjuster out, and that adjuster would write an estimate and give you a check and say, good luck. And that's their job. Their job is not necessarily to fix it for you, but just to make sure that, you can fix it. And now you have to go find a water mitigation contractor. You have to go find a build back, somebody to build it back. You may not know who these people are. This is hopefully the only time you'll ever have to deal with this.
Yeah.
So there's no repeat customer benefit to you for going back to these people. That's where we come in, really. So now the carrier, they could do it that way, or they can offer their insured, because it is their insured's choice, at the time when the insured calls in and you say, oh, my water line broke, my kitchen's flooded. Would you like us to send the contractor out to fix it for you? And many times the homeowner would say, that would be great. They contact us, and this is all done electronically, right? So through their claim systems, they can enter that claim and direct it to us. We have what we used to call an algorithm. Now I'll call it AI. Now, we'll pick the correct contractor best matched to that job out of all the contractors in our program. So we have, roughly 3,000 contractors, and they are assigned by zip code and by the type of work that they do. So it will pick the contractor, put that contractor in touch with the homeowner, and then they'll make a call, speak to each other, send that contractor out. And that contractor will write an estimate. That estimate gets approved by the insurance carrier, and then the contractor will perform the work, perform the repairs. Carrier pays the contractor directly with the insured's permission. We handle that payment electronically as well. So really, it's as little hassle as possible for the homeowner. They just get put back into their pre-loss condition as quickly as possible, and they get a reliable, high-quality contractor. And the reason we know that is because, unlike that homeowner who's never going to see that contractor again, we see that contractor all the time, and they want to do a good job because they want to stay, well ranked in the Alacrity system.
And that's one of the substantial things about this service is the quality, and a lot of the quality goes on very quietly, right behind the scenes. The insured is very rarely aware of it, but certainly the carrier is aware of it, because the carrier can understand all the different ways that this could go sideways. And it doesn't. When I was in a position at the company, when we first came here, I was a client partner and I was managing carrier relationships. And one of the most striking things to me about our MRP program was I never got a complaint. I never had a carrier call me and say, this claim has blown up. Now, I know it happens, because we all know that happens, but it happens very rarely. You guys have built a system to kind of make sure it goes well.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, and it's amazing how rarely it happens. It does happen, as you said. The issue rate, we call that an issue. The issue rate is a fraction of 1% of the claims that have any sort of a problem that rises to the issue where somebody makes a call or there's a request, which is really remarkable, and a tribute to the contractors on our network, our process for vetting those contractors, and so that we only bring on the best, and then the people that do the work every day. A lot of this work is automated. It has been in the past. It gets more so the further we go on. But really, in a management by exception situation, when something does happen, it's when the humans step in and make sure that things get resolved as quickly as possible to the homeowner satisfaction.
And why don't we talk a little bit about the field manager role? A lot of networks are sitting behind the desk, right? They're finding the contractors, they're getting them out there, they're probably paying. But Alacrity goes above and beyond. I've heard this from several clients something that separates us is that we have boots on the ground. We have employees of Alacrity who go out, visit sites, look for the quality, visit with the insureds, deal with those issues. Talk to us a little bit about what they do, where they at, things like that.
Yeah. So our regional field managers, we call them RFMs, and we have about 30 of them, and they are deployed, as you mentioned, around the country in areas of major claim, right? So mostly around population centers, and or in a position where they can get the claims. We call them our local business leaders in the community, and they all work with a group of contractors on our network. So they may have 40 or 50 of our network contractors that they are responsible for interacting with on a regular basis. And when I say a regular basis, they are out there, maybe not daily, but they're certainly talking to them weekly, and each one of them, and in many cases going to their offices or occasionally visiting a job site. And a lot of these people are former insurance adjusters. Some of them are former contractors. In other words, they're knowledgeable in the business, right? And their role isn't to go out and say, hey, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. Their role really is to be a relationship manager and to help the contractor, perform to our requirements. If the contractor has a question about timelines or anything, they're there to help them with that. And to interact with local carrier personnel, adjusters that may be out there. And also in some circumstances, to work with homeowners as well, making sure that they're satisfied.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk for a few minutes about technology, which you guys deploy and employ a lot. It's you mentioned AlacNet, which is a system that you guys have built from the ground up. It's old already, though it's been refreshed many, many times. And talk for a moment about your tech, and then I want to get into a conversation about the tech that's out there to support MRP today from other companies.
When this company started in 1999, it was built around what is now called AlacNet, and AlacNet was built out of necessity because at the time we didn't think there was anything out there that we could buy off the shelf that did what we needed it to do.
Sure.
And, in 20 plus years of doing this work, AlacNet has grown and iterated into what it is today, which is, I think, very specialized. It's a job management platform, but it's really tailored for the type of work that we do at Alacrity. And it's built in modules, so there are multiple components to it. There's a credentialing module for onboarding new contractors, so recruiting and credentialing. Then there's the event management module, which is kind of what we think about, hey, the job's in the system. It records timelines. There are deadlines. The first call has to be made within a half an hour. Somebody's got to be on site within 4, right? The estimate has to be written within 3 days. All of that is tracked automatically in the system. And then there's the paying agent solution, PASS, which allows us to electronically receive the payment and issue it to the contractor upon completion of the work and sign off from the homeowner. So really everything that happens in there. And then we've got a number of APIs to interact with various exact analysis, to interact with CoreLogic, Estimate, as well as all of the other tools that are being used in the industry so that our people can work in AlacNet, where the contractor may choose to work in AlacNet or Exact. The carrier may choose to work in their system of record, but it all flows through. So we're looking at the same information.
And what are you seeing develop as far as tools around? Like we had Paul Donaldson on from Encircle, great guy.
Great guy.
Which is a product that is developed to work in and around the MRP world. Is that right?
It is, and I've worked with Paul, and I'm familiar with the product with Encircle, and it's a great tool. And we encourage that. If there are tools out there that make it easier for our contractors to do their job, or for the homeowner to get a better result, or for the carrier to get more information more quickly, let's use them, right? These things help us really. I think I said it's got to add to everybody, right? These things add to everybody. So if we can do it faster, we can do it more accurately, then let's do that. And so we work with Paul, and then there's some other companies out there as well that have some really wonderful tools. And we say, yep, well, if the carrier wants to use them, or we'll talk to the carrier, maybe this will improve how quickly things get done. Let's do it.
Do you see these tools growing? I mean, is there more energy and more development going on in and around MRP to help you? And I'm assuming it's maybe not specifically for MRP, but kind of in the industry, and it's applicable to MRP.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is a several years ago, an insurance executive spoke at a conference from a carrier, and he said that his son, who had just gotten out of college with maybe an electrical engineering degree or computer science degree, said, "Hey, insurance is sexy," right? And we all laughed, but it's true. I think the insurance claims industry has been discovered as something that maybe the term is ripe for disruption, okay, or it was ripe for disruption a few years ago, but that can be. I'm not using it as in a negative and saying, hey, we're being disrupted in a bad way. It's in a good way. There were a lot of things that were done in insurance that haven't changed, since since London in the 1600s, when guys were posting the ship's manifests on the tavern, right, and betting as to whether that ship was going to make it back or not, underwriting the ship voyage. Not a lot has changed in many ways since then. And in the last few years, the pace of innovation has definitely increased. And you see companies coming out that are really just technology companies saying, we're a technology company, but maybe we're also an MRP, right? We're not. I've had quote unquote competitors, okay, who, and I don't say that sarcastically. They have great companies and I like them. And I put competitors in air quotes because it's a big space, right? I don't want to be naive, but there's a lot of room for everybody here to figure out a better mousetrap and how this all works. And they've come to me and said, hey, we're not your competitor. We're a technology company. We just deployed in the MRP space, and so can you. And it's not far-fetched. There may be some that come along where we say, hey, we'll use that. That's a great solution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it fair to say that managed repair is doing for the property space what direct repair is doing in the auto space, right? For years and years, we talked about, isn't there an easier way to get homes repaired, just like we do auto? You get an auto wreck, you drive it to the shop, they repair it. You don't even have to worry about money to the insured. It's all just done. Is that in an essence what managed repair is?
That is a direct, we often talk about the auto space being 10 to 15 years ahead of the structural property space. Mm-hmm. And this idea around, auto bodies, and back there was photo estimating, right, where the homeowner, where the car, the auto owner could take the pictures themselves. Now you've got these body shops that are nationwide you just bring it in and they repair it. It's very analogous to what we're doing on the property side. We've always recognized that, with the major difference being, obviously, a car is not a house, right? So every car is, with some exceptions, is part of that hundreds of thousands or millions of other cars just like it. Whereas just about every house is unique. Even houses that are built to be the same, eventually they're different. So that is the major difference. And also you can't drive your house to the contractor. The contractor has to come out to you. And those are, but a lot of the innovations that we've seen on the auto space, we are deploying absolutely on the property side, or they will be here someday.
One more thing about our current, about Alacrity's current managed repair. You're more than just contractors, right? You can do engineers, right? You can send experts out, leak detection. Like you're more than just swinging the hammer. You have experts on your panel too, right?
Yeah, and let's not forget water mitigation, et
Water
cetera.
mitigation,
Right.
emergency repairs.
And thank you, Faye. I use the term contractor as all encompassing, but within that we have, I want to say we have over 50 individual trades that we in Alacnet, or areas where we can assign a professional, and that could be a general contractor, a roofer, a flooring installer. It could be an engineer, and there's many different types. We have soil engineers, we have structural engineers. It can be asbestos remediation, uh, hazardous waste cleanup are all things that we handle. Yes, water mitigation, very large and important trade in our space. Smoke, which may be different from water, right? So after a fire, yeah, you have a water mitigator go out, but then you also need a smoke mitigator to remove the smell of smoke from the home. Those are often different mitigators as well. Testing, we can do environmental testing. That's all part of our network.
Wow.
So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is it still pretty much the same as it is today, or do you see changes coming? Is there, you said you used the phrase ripe for disruption, which is not a phrase that I necessarily enjoy, but where's it going? What do you think?
I view that as a good thing. And in this case, I view it as a good thing. And disruption. We know, if you read the literature in the industry and follow the news, managed repair is, as you mentioned, we started off saying nobody really knew what managed repair was. It's a bigger and bigger part of the claims process, and that is going to continue because it yields a better result for the homeowner, right? It's the customer satisfaction scores are higher when a quality contractor goes out and quickly fixes the person's home and gets them back into their home. And for that reason, it's going to be used by more and more carriers and more claims. So one of the things that we talk with our carriers about, and I mentioned the 50 plus types of claims, that's because they keep saying, hey, can you guys do this? Can you guys do that? And the answer is always yes, we can do it. We'll figure it out, right? And there are more players in the space, although I think that is all to the positive, honestly, in that as there are more people getting in, the pie is also getting bigger. The claims that are eligible for this type of work is growing. So there's a lot of runway for everybody to participate and provide a better result. And really that's, we started off talking about me being a lawyer and practicing. The biggest difference between what I did as a lawyer and what I do here is I come here to work every day and I get to help people, right? That's what we do at the end of the day is people are in maybe one of the toughest situations of their lives when their home has been damaged. Maybe they can't be in their home, their memories, their safe space. And we help put them back in there as quickly as possible and at the highest quality of service. So you feel good at the end of the day when you close I used to say when you go home, but now when you close your computer, you feel like, hey, I did something positive today.
I did something good. I love that. Well, John, as we're getting here towards the end, we can't end without talking about the event of the year, the Alacrity Conference, right? All year long, we hear how much our carriers and our contractors love this event. And it is a time where you bring all these parties together. We just had one last month, maybe the month before, but give us a little insight. What is the Alacrity Conference and how did it go this year?
Thank you. The Alacrity Conference, we call it Access, and it was in Orlando, Florida at the Rosen Shingle Creek. We had a golf event. We had over 1,200 contractors there and 3 days of learning, right? Classroom, conversation. There was plenty of entertainment. Then at night we go out, we have a good time. We drove we drove go-karts at Andretti's, or we went to the Hard Rock one night and there was a rock band and had good food and an award show. And I think the important thing about Access is, just like its name says, Access, it gives you the opportunity to spend time with it gives me the opportunity to spend time with the contractors, and it gives the contractors time just with our employees to really talk, and sometimes informally, about the program, about expectations, about the industry. It's just a real, we work really hard, and Shirley Goodman, who is the principal who puts it on, does a wonderful job
Fantastic.
of not only making sure that people are entertained, but also that they're not overscheduled, that there's just a lot of time to talk to people, whether that's on the floor, on the trade show floor, or at lunch, and just exchange ideas. And you always come out of that. I always come out of that rejuvenated and refreshed, with a stronger relationship with our contractor partners, with our carrier clients. And I'm told, in fact, I was on a call earlier today with a contractor partner who again talked about how much he enjoys the Access show, how much he learns there every year, and how much he's looking forward to next year.
That's great. Where is it next year? Same place?
No, it is at the Royal Carib Royale, I believe is how you say it, in Orlando, at the Carib Royale, and it's a little earlier. I think it's May 6th through the 9th.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to get in trouble if that's wrong, but I think that's right. And we've already been planning. We've already started planning. As you know, as soon as one ends, you start up for the next one. So really looking forward to what we're going to do next year there.
That's exciting.
John, we've really enjoyed having you here. It's great to hear about what's going on. And I just want to add a little plug for our MRP service and for John. We're killing it. Business is great. And honestly, it is because, like I said before, for those of us who work around MRP, not in it directly, but have to rely on it, it just gets the job done very super effectively. So I know that you've moved back more actively into the MRP realm in the past year or so, and you're killing it. So congratulations on that, and thanks. I'm glad we finally got this done.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. The time flew by, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
And I'm sure that your son is dying to hear the final.
There's no way he is
18. Is he 18 yet, or is he still 17?
This month. He turns 18 this month.
His almost 18-year-old son.
Yeah, there's no way he made it to the end of the podcast. If I was a betting man,
I'd bribe him. I'd just bribe him.
I'll tell him there's going to be a quiz later, and I'll pick out points that he needs to know about.
By the way, Max, his son, is a terrific kid, and who was my personal chauffeur.
And that is true. And I can't get through the podcast if you mention Max. I have to mention my wonderful daughter Jenna as well,
and
there you
Melinda. Let's come on.
And my wife Melinda.
There's lots of principals here.
Yes.
You got to get them all. Well, thank you for being on, John.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, guys. Real pleasure.
Love me some John Miko.
Love John Miko. As I said, John was one of the first people to reach out to us, to welcome us to the Alacrity family. It always made a big impact on me.
John is a class guy. He actually, I have a long history with John that goes back to like 2015. And
you do.
Always enjoy to be with him. And like I was saying about Eugene, fabulous place.
I can't wait to go. I want to go see him and Craig Capon.
Dude, Craig Capon. I'm so glad you brought up Craig Capon.
Got to go see Craig Capon. And John Miko, of course, but Craig Capon, of course.
We should have Craig Capon on the podcast.
I would love that.
Would you?
I think that'd be fun.
I don't know. I think we need to have a pre-meeting with him. Craig Capon is our corporate counsel.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what can he say and what does he have to asterisk?
He leads our corporate council. And
one of my very favorite people.
An amazing guy who is angry at me right now because I was in Eugene and I didn't see him.
Oh,
but lots of people are angry
hurtful.
at me.
Yeah, that's
You're
a shame.
angry at me sometimes.
Well, always. But if you're in Eugene, you got to go see Craig.
Absolutely. And listen, if you're ever looking for a podcast, come see us.
Yeah.
And we'll be back again next week with another episode of FNO InsurTech. And until then,
goodbye, everybody.